But we pray for you to get strength. Actually, our prayer meeting prayed for you today, Mike.
Did they? I
Yeah,
think they're live.
that's okay. Now we are. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Well, thank you
Hallelujah.
for inviting me today.
Well, we're so glad you're with us tonight. And
My pleasure.
it's just a blessing to have you with us, Mike. We are just honored to have you. This is our first broadcast for Be a Hero to a Hero. And it's our first broadcast ever for Be a Hero to a Hero. And I'm just really excited about this because we have, ladies and gentlemen, we have one of the greatest men we have ever met that loves a veteran, that cares for veterans, is a veteran, here's a veteran. I'm just supporting these veterans and honoring them because I think they just don't get enough honor at all.
Amen.
And we welcome you all to Be a Hero to a Hero's first broadcast. And tonight we want to honor Mike Tellerino, who is not only a veteran, but a hero to a hero.
Well, thank you.
And we just love you so much, Mike, and what you're doing. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on tonight is that Robert just completed the course that Zoe does with Chappie.
Mm-hmm.
And, for PTSD. Yeah, the Soho Council. And we have also been trained in a lot of inner healing, through quote ministry. And a lot of it was very similar, but Robert had to, he had to learn the language, how to shift the language from church language to help the veteran. And we feel that it's really important to let people know how serious this PTSD really is, that it's not a pity party. Mike,
No.
I want you to share what's on your heart about that.
Our veterans that come home with PTSD, they're just not getting the help that they need. There's such a misconception of what PTSD is actually is. People, I don't want people to be afraid of someone who's been diagnosed with PTSD. I think a lot of people have the misconception that, they're going to go postal and it's got nowhere near the same connotation that, PTSD, it's just nothing to be afraid of. We need to talk about PTSD. We need to get it out to the public that PTSD isn't something that our veterans need to be ashamed of. Our veterans, they went out and they took the oath. They went out and did exactly what they were asked to do and asked for nothing in return. Nothing. When they came home, or when they do come home with PTSD, they're just not getting the help that they need. It's we call it the walking wounded.
Yeah.
Because these veterans, they suffer 24/7 with PTSD. I couldn't imagine what they go through in a day. What we do to help our veterans with K9 for Veterans, it's never going to cure PTSD, but hopefully we make getting through the day much easier for them. Because when we're in the military, we come home, when we're, as your husband knows, that, we always had a battle buddy, someone who always watched our back, had our back, and took care of us. When we come home, we don't have that. We're used to being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, the whole gambit. So when we come home, we don't have that. We're at a loss, like, what do we do now? And then you get these veterans suffering from PTSD, which is a constant battle, constant struggle. They just need to be more understood, and they need to get more help. The hardest thing for a veteran to do is to admit that they need help. Okay. One of the main things we ask our veterans when we interview them is, how do you think this service dog is going to help you with your PTSD? Yeah. And the majority of them will tell us that I won't be alone. I'll have somebody with me.
Wow.
When you're a veteran with PTSD and you go into a public setting by yourself, you feel like all the eyes are on you. And it makes you very uncomfortable. You look for the closest seat, closest to the door for a fast exit as you can find. When you walk in with a service dog, the focus is on the dog and not yourself, not the veteran, which makes it much easier to walk into a room. And inadvertently, people are going to come up to that veteran with that service dog, and And, how old's your dog? What kind of dog is it? And just talk to them about their dog. It's not about them. So it's much easier to open up and have a conversation with people that they would typically avoid at all costs. But now it's helping them start to communicate and open up with people that they would typically avoid at all costs. So these service dogs, they do a lot to help our veterans. They do get through the day. But the most important thing a service dog does for a veteran is if they're having a PTSD episode, that service dog is gonna alert them that, hey, you're troubled right now. And what they're going to do is they're going to get their attention. They're going to bark at them. They're going to lean against them. They're going to nudge them. They're going to lick their face. They're going to paw them, whatever they can. And what they're actually trying to do is tell you, you know what, don't focus on where you were at. Focus on me. I'm here now. Come back to the present. You don't need to be in that, what I call the bad place. And it truly does work. It's a gift. It really is.
Well, Mike, when you train these dogs, how long does it take to train a dog? And when you train the dogs, do you have to have, let's just use Rob as an example. Let's say he wants a dog. He has to be trained with that dog and they
Right.
have to be compatible, correct?
What we do when we interview the veteran, we get as much information about that veteran as we can. Their lifestyle, they live in a house, do they live in an apartment? Have they had dogs before? What are they couch potatoes? Are they very active and walking or exercising? Then we try to go out, our trainers will go out and they'll look at maybe 20 dogs just to find just that right dog that's going to fit that veteran's lifestyle. Once we find that dog, or our trainer does, and we've got some amazing trainers. Once they find that trainer that finds that dog for that veteran, we have them bring in their entire family to the training center to do a meet and greet. Once they do that meet and greet, they have to come in 2 or 3 times to work with that dog. And after that 2 or 3 times that they come and trade, if they feel like, hey, this is going to work, I could get along with this dog, then we send the dog home with the veteran. And then they have to start coming in for their training classes. They train one-on-one with that dog.
That's wonderful.
And we train that dog. I don't care if it's 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24. We will train that dog till it's everything that veteran needs that dog to be to help him get through the day. I can tell you a real brief story. I got a phone call not too long ago. One of our veterans' wives called and says, I just want to thank K9, Mike. And I said, well, why? And she says, well, I got my husband back. I says, really?
Oh, praise God.
She says, I says, well, what do you mean? She says, well, my husband would get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee. He'd sit in front of that TV 12, 14, 16, 18 hours a day. Wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't talk to our kids, didn't talk to our neighbors. It was just a shell of a person. It was not the same man that left to serve our country. Now, 3 months after he's had that service dog, he gets up in the morning, grabs that cup of coffee, takes the dog for a 2-mile walk. He's lost 10 pounds.
Wow.
Okay. He comes in the house after that walk and doesn't shut up.
That's wonderful.
It's not only brought the veteran out of his shell, but it's brought their family closer together as a unit as well. Because now, before she'd ask him, do you want to go to Walmart with me? Nope. You want to go anywhere with me? Nope. What do you want to do? Nothing. Now he can't wait to go to Walmart and walk around with his dog because everybody's, he's just much more active now that he has that dog. He's not alone. It's just something that helps him get out of the house.
And it's almost like like something relates to you.
Right.
Because my father, he was a World War II veteran. He was in an airplane crash. He suffered severe PTSD. I mean, I grew up listening to him scream about the flames in the middle of the night.
Sure.
And I would listen to my mother wake him and comfort him. And I would hear him sobbing. And he'd say, nobody understands. Nobody
will.
And I remember he was very, very active in the veterans in the American Legion that Robert's in now. But I remember that he made a comment once when we started to ask Dad about some of the things of the war, because he would watch all the war movies and he would sit there and cry the whole time when he was watching the John Wayne war, all the World War II movies. And he would sit there and cry. And we say, Dad, what is it? What can we do? And he says, you'll never understand because you're not one of us.
No, until you served and you've been through combat, we can't imagine the horrific things that they've seen, been through, to be in constant fear of your life.
Right.
Not knowing from minute to minute, are you going to go home to your wife and kids or to your family? You know, you're constantly on edge, and it's just, we couldn't understand that. And I hope we never do understand that, because it's the most horrific thing that these veterans live with 24/7. And, you know, anything could set off their PTSD. It could be a sound, it could be a smell, it could be a sight, it could be a shadow on a wall. They could hear, you know, I was at one of our veterans' home who's got severe PTSD, and there was a loud crash. Well, he ducked behind a couch and went totally on the ground, you know, and everybody looked at him like, what the hell happened there, you know? But for him, that was just a normal reaction to, you know, what he was programmed for.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you come home, you know, like I said, they deal with this 24/7. We'll never understand it.
Do you want to share something?
No, I was just gonna say, you know, for the people that are watching too, we're talking about K9s for vets, but we're also talking about PTSD, and that actually goes way back to all the wars. I mean,
Sure.
shell shocked in World War I.
Shell shock, that was the name of
They
it back
called
then.
it, and then
Right.
it was something else in World War II. Korea and Vietnam really didn't get too much of anything. And then my generation, which is the Gulf War, Panama, the little conflicts like that, they didn't really know what it was. And I have seen myself through K9s for Vets and others, how the dog actually settles the person down. I can say for my own, my dog's not even trained.
Right.
But I would never thought that this little dog will make me all of a sudden chill out. And I don't even know why I'm chilled up. You know?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Get it.
needs to be trained. I don't know if she's too old to be trained, but you know, Rob does very well having an animal next to him. He's not going to say it, but he's had his own issues. He was with Bush on 9/11.
Right.
And he
I
was,
know
you know,
we were talking about that.
he was there, and he was in Bosnia, Kosovo. And I'll tell you, do you remember when was it Russia was invading Bosnia or whatever it was? I forget where it was. And we were in Washington, D.C. We were at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. You know how they give you they show the parade and everything.
Right.
And we were there, and all of a sudden, the helicopter went over Marine One, and Rob jumped up because he knew what that was. And he said, get ready. We're going to see the president in any minute. Something's happening. And he went into a mode I've never seen him go into before, but that was all the years that he was trained.
Oh, yeah. It's
30-year veteran here.
It never leaves you, you know. Again, we can't comprehend what our veterans who've been in that position to watch one of their buddies die next to them in their arms, and to see how horrific is that. And yet we expect them to come, you know. I think the military should be doing more to condition the families when they're discharging a veteran with PTSD. It's not the same. Joe's not the same guy that left. Their husband, their fiance, their brother, their sister, whatever, not the same person who left. And I think the family needs to be better conditioned for who's coming home. That would save a lot of divorces, a lot of issues that the families have dealing with someone with PTSD. There's just not enough preparation for who's coming home and what they could expect.
I can confirm that because my mother had received a telegram that my dad had died.
Oh my God.
He comes home 2 years later, burned over almost all his body, grafted with pig skin. I don't even know what hospital he was in Europe. They transported his body from here to there. He was the guy that flew the hump. in World War II. And my mother, it's only by the grace of God she was able to cope, because I think you just hit on something that's vital. When some of these people see combat, I mean, we've got some veterans in our church, and we've got a young man that was in, I don't know if he was in Gulf. I think one of the wars he was over there, and he dehydrated.
Afghanistan.
Yeah, he was in Afghanistan. He dehydrated terribly. And they carry like a 60, 70 pound pack on their back.
Yeah.
And what happened was, from the dehydration, his bones began to compress. And he kept saying, my back, my back. They kept moving and moving and moving and moving and moving. Well, he came out of that so severely traumatized that even now he can't put any weight on his back because of what happened to him when he was there. When many people would say, oh, that's not a big deal, that just needs, no, that's a big deal, because you're serving your country and you're following an oath. And you've got to keep moving with the rest of your group or your unit or whatever you call it, or you're going to die.
Right. I get it. Believe me.
And then the family needs training in PTSD.
Well,
They need to
yes.
work with these families of these veterans being discharged with PTSD of what they could expect. There's an organization, it's Rush University. They have a program called it's called the Road Home Program. It's an amazing, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's an amazing program. And what I love about their treatment is so state of the art, so forward thinking, is unbelievable. And what's the best part of them is that they will treat the whole family. So if you're a veteran and your spouse, your wife, your daughter, your sister, your child, anybody in your family, aunts, uncles, whoever was affected by your PTSD, they will treat that person as well. And it's 100% free to the veteran and family. And they treat the whole veteran, not just his PTSD. They treat every aspect of him.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because when you realize what people have gone through, you become a victim of PTSD too.
Called secondary PTSD. They're caregivers, the wives of veterans that are caring for a veteran, they develop, and it's been proven by Rush University Road Home Program, that the spouses of these veterans also will develop a secondary PTSD, living with the trauma that their husband or wife went through. They share that with them because they're living with it and stuff. And most of our veterans have caregivers that have PTSD. One of our veterans, John, he was on 14 different medicines a day.
Oh my
He
goodness.
needed a caregiver just to keep up with the medicine that he was on, when to take it, when, the routine of his medicine.
Oh my
And, it's just amazing. Like I said, we're just not doing enough for our veterans.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and I want you to really elaborate on this, you created a memorial for the lost, for the victims, the final straw of the PTSD. And I want you to share what's happening in Chehanan, because I've been there. Ladies and gentlemen, I went there and I sang the national anthem with tears in my eyes, because what this man is doing, we need more of this in the country. Go ahead, Mike.
We started K9s. I started K9 6 years ago, and it was to help our veterans struggling PTSD. Then we sat back and we thought, well, what about the veterans that we couldn't help, that lost that battle to PTSD? How do we honor those families and those veterans? Because really, there's no recognition for them. Once they commit suicide, the DOD just wants to even forget they were part of the military. They get no recognition at all. Now, these veterans should get some kind of ribbon, some kind of acknowledgement, some kind of something from the military for their service to our country, because their death was a direct result of their service to our country. They just didn't wake up one day and say, good day to commit suicide. No, it doesn't work like that. They struggled with because of what they endured fighting for our country. So anyway, we decided that we needed to create some kind of memorial to honor. And it's not so much what we can do for our veterans, because they're dead. You know, we want the families to realize and understand that their son, their daughter died as a direct result of their service to our country and should be recognized as a hero. So
Yes.
we have a ceremony twice a year, which we're just awesome to have you there and do that. You have such an amazing voice, by the way. You really
Oh,
do.
thank you.
So we decided we wanted to create a memorial. So we took us 3 years to get the funding together because we did this. K9 did this all on our own. We didn't
Yeah.
get money from the government, from nobody. We raised it through private fundraising events. Anyway, long story short, we add names to the memorial twice a year, and we have the memorial. If you want to go see it, it's theforgottenwarriormemorial.org. It's a beautiful memorial to honor these veterans. We have an honor guard there to carry the flags in. We do a blessing of the memorial and a blessing for the veterans. We have somebody playing taps there. We have a bagpipe player there. We call the families up to the memorial, and they present and they bring a rose up to that. If their son was in the Army, they place it up by the Army memorial stone. And then at the end of calling all the families up to place that rose, we have an honor guard present all the families with a flag in a case to present it to that family. One of the mothers had come up to me after one of the memorials we had, and she says, Michael, I just want you to know that my son was a hero. And I says, well, that's why we're here today. We want the world to know that your son, and again, I keep saying this, died as a direct result of his service to our country. So, and now I don't know if this is true or not, but I've been told by several people that if you're a veteran and you commit suicide, that they will not let you be placed on any state, county, or federal memorial.
That's true.
Which I find just totally insane. You died as a direct result of your service to our country, and you're not allowed on a more. But if you and listen, the veterans that are KIAs, killed in action, they deserve every honor they get. Every honor. They can't do enough for those veterans that lost their lives in battle for our country. But in the same token, it took our guys just a little bit longer to succumb to their injury. And we want the families to understand that somebody finally acknowledges that their son or daughter is a hero.
Absolutely.
We just want to honor them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can't tell you how moving it is to be there. When I was there, I was so moved by what you have done. And it was like 95 degrees that day.
Oh, believe me, I know.
And here we are, we're there in full uniform, and you don't even feel it because you're standing there so proud that these people, and what was interesting and just phenomenal was that some of these people weren't even from the state. They came from out of state because nobody else has a memorial like this. And they were so thankful that you recognized their child or their brother or their father for whatever that's part of the branch of service that they were in. You honored them, and they came all the way from out of state to have their name put there. Kudos to you.
What we do is on the back of the memorial where all the names are at, we cover their names up, and we have the family come up and remove the tape to display their name for the first time in public and stuff. It's just a way to honor our veterans who lost that battle. Like I said, it's not so much for the veteran as it is for the family. Somebody's got to appreciate the sacrifice that these veterans made. They didn't go there thinking that they were going to get PTSD, come home and take their life. I mean, it's just something that it affects everybody differently. Some veterans some guys that serve combat, like your husband, can get through that, and it leaves a scar. But some of them are permanently scarred to where they can't cope with it.
Right.
They've lost their buddies. They've seen so much hurt and anger and misery and suffering that it just stays with them.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we see so many of our veterans that are alcoholics, they're on drugs because they're trying to deaden the pain.
Right.
And they can't deaden the pain because you can't deaden the memory bank.
No.
You can't, and it doesn't take much to ignite. Like I said, when we were just visiting in Washington, D.C., and he was ready to jump.
Right.
And it's what an honor. And to do this for the families, because this gives them final respectful closure.
Some closure.
I think it's really important too, because for the longest time, even the Gulf War veterans didn't have nowhere. They have one now in Washington, D.C.
Finally.
The only place in the whole country, and people came from Colorado, from Oklahoma, from whatever, to put their son's or daughter's name on that plaque in Illinois. I forget where it's at exactly, but and this is the only memorial right now that I know of that actually honors those that lost the ultimate fight, which is the home.
Are you the only one in the country that has this right now?
No, there's small ones. Nowhere can't compare, and I shouldn't say that. I'm not trying.
But yours is elegantly wonderful. It's worth going to.
We spent 3 years building that because we wanted, we could have done it a lot cheaper than we did as far as the money that it costs us to build it. But there was no way we're going to do just a memorial just to do a memorial. We wanted it to be something that when these families came up and seen, that they would be in awe and they would feel proud that, at least my son is dead and he's not here, but at least he'll be immortalized on that memorial.
Yeah, his name is somewhere and not in shame.
Not forgotten.
And not in shame.
Exactly. There's no shame in that. Their battle was a direct result of their service to our country. It's not like I said, they woke up one day and say, well, I just think I'm going to end it. No, it doesn't work that way.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Mike, I put in the chat so that people can get it. I put in your website so that people can go there and donate and help keep K9s for Vets going, help keep this memorial going. We just believe in you, Mike, and we believe in what you're doing. We know that I see you on Facebook. You're all over the place, letting everybody know you're there. And I'm like, God, we need to do that for Be a Hero to a Hero. But
we've got a great board. We broke the memorial off of K9. We formed a separate 501c3 because we wanted the people who donate to the memorial to know that their funds, and we're good stewards of the funding that we get, that if they were donating to the memorial, that funding was going to go towards the memorial. And I've been blessed. I have an awesome vice president, Reggie Latuca.
Oh, she's a dream.
She's an amazing one. I couldn't do what I do without her. And once we formed the Forgotten Warrior Memorial, we put together a board of directors that they put our veterans and that memorial first above everything. So we've been blessed with a great board of directors who just can't do enough to honor our veterans. And we've been really lucky. We really have. And what you do with your Hero to Hero, going to the hospitals, doing what you're doing, nobody that I know is doing that. And these veterans that are sitting in that hospital that would be all alone on a holiday or any day feel like they're totally forgotten because they have no one. What you do by going in there and seeing these veterans, giving them, you put a smile on their face like, oh my God, somebody does recognize me and know that I'm alive.
We had one man that, and I just have to share this because it just is so heartbreaking. We do Operation Gift a Vet at Christmas. It's a stocking and it's got special things in the stocking. And the Beanie Baby is so important because it can go in the microwave or the freezer. Oh, great.
I got a whole bag.
Oh, yay. And we see this one man every year at one of the facilities, and he stands at the door and he waits for that stocking at Christmas because it's the only time he gets a visitor every year.
Is that sad?
And when we first started doing this, we went to the hospitals and nursing homes and we said, we really want to do this for your veterans. Every single facility said no one's ever singled out our veterans before.
Right. I know.
And
It's-
while we were doing it, the lady that was taking us around at one of the one in Geneva was taking us around. She says, I don't know if I should tell you this or not. I'm so thankful you're doing this for the veterans, but I'm an Army veteran. We turned around and handed her a stocking
Yeah.
for being there for all these veterans. And she had tears in her eyes because never before had she seen an organization come in and do this.
Until we talked and we met and you told me what you're doing, I'm going, wow, I've never heard of anybody giving their time, opening their heart to acknowledge that these poor veterans are in these nursing homes, in these hospitals, just languishing day after day after day. How, it's like, it's like saying homeless and veteran in the same sentence.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. It
No.
should not be. But these veterans that you're going to see on a holiday, bringing these stockings, that it's, I've talked to some of the places you've been, and they are so just overwhelmed with what you do for our veterans there. So,
That's such a blessing.
you could talk about K9 and what we do, but how you're uplifting their spirits. And we all know that during the holidays, if you're depressed, you even get more depressed.
Oh, yeah.
It's a terrible time for our veterans as well. So it's even more so for the people that are languishing in those hospital beds all by themselves.
And
then
some of them strapped down.
Yeah.
They can't move. Some of them, I hate to say it, but they're laying in their own excrement.
Right.
We've been in there where we've actually come out of there and said, God, help us to breathe, because they hadn't cleaned the place.
Right.
But, we didn't stop and not pray. We went in and prayed for them, blessed them. We had one man, we went and visited this room, and Robert walked in the room because, being a woman, I'm not going to go in there with a man because you don't know if he's decent or not.
Right.
And so Robert went in, he came out and he goes, the nurse is in there saying that he's not going to make it. They're going to give him last rites. I said, well, we'll go in and give him last rites. And we said, we're ministers. We'll come in, give him last rites. She said, come on in. We started singing Amazing Grace. And the man who was dying opened up his eyes and grabbed that stocking and started singing Silent Night with us. And he's still alive today.
God bless.
That's the important.
That's the power of healing.
Little thing.
That's the power of prayer.
Yeah.
That's the power of just loving somebody who's
Right.
lost.
Mhm.
And
And
I
you're-
think many of our veterans just feel lost. They don't feel
Mhm.
like they're included because their lives are so dramatically changed that they don't even know where they belong.
No, they don't.
This man didn't when he came out. He was one of those that sat on the couch waiting for someone to tell him what to do. And then finally he went, hey, I can do this. And he started doing things, but it took a snap of his own mind to do it.
We just have to keep the conversation going about PTSD.
exactly.
Most of our veterans have a hard time talking about what's bothering them and what they've been through and what causes their PTSD. One thing great about these service dogs, and on a lighter note, you could, our veterans, they could talk to their service dog about anything. They could tell them their most horrific thoughts,
Yeah.
what they did. And the dog is never going to look at them and go like, you did what?
Yeah.
Really? You did that? They're not going to look at them that way. They're going to look at them with unconditional love. And the best part about a service dog, no matter what you tell them, they can keep a secret.
That's for sure.
They're not going to tell
I'm not
anybody.
gonna tell anybody.
They're not going to tell anybody. So your secret. So you could talk about anything with them, and they could talk to their service dog typically easier than they could talk to their spouse.
I believe that.
It's
I
true.
believe it. Now, it's been reported that 22 veterans a day commit suicide, but it's really much more than that.
Right.
And I have been notified, and I think it was Support Over Stigma that told me that they're not even allowed in some states to say how
To
many.
report it, no. A
Yeah,
lot
they're
of
not even
states-
allowed to report it
I
because
think
the
there's three
statistic is
states
so
that
high.
don't. I think there's 3 or 4 states that will not report a PTSD suicide, which, I mean, the DOD, they don't want that out anyway. You know, they don't want to show that our military has a weakness and this is what you could expect if you join the military. You know, we
But yet,
have,
if you don't take the shot, you're out.
yeah, right. Yeah, how we did. Yeah, you can go fight for our country, put your life on the line,
Yeah.
and you can come back home, or we won't even, you know, yeah, it just don't make any sense. at
Yeah,
all.
there's been a lot of totally misunderstanding from the general public to the military. I don't think people really understand the cause and the price paid. I was privileged and yet scared a lot as a child because of what I saw with my father. And I learned to love him so much in the midst of it. And I got tears in my eyes because I had members of my family that had a hard time dealing with it because my father, his brother, my uncles all went in the military at the same time. And a couple of them served together until they were deployed elsewhere. And my cousins, I have 2 cousins of mine that I talk to, and they say the exact same thing. All we could do was just watch them, watch the movies, and sit there next to them. Weren't almost not even allowed to say anything.
Right.
And one day I was in the car with my dad and I said, why can't you talk? What's wrong? I thought there was something wrong with me.
Mhm.
You know, I was only like maybe 16. I said, what's wrong with me? He goes, there's nothing wrong with you. And I said, but why can't we talk? And he says, because I don't know what to say to you and you don't know what to say to me. But he said, I will tell you one thing. In this world, everybody has a job to do. And he says, do it to your best and make a leader better than yourself. And you will have served your God and country properly.
Amen.
He told me that at 16 years old, and I've never, ever lost that because it was like one of those moments where a light goes on and you connected with something that was traumatic, but yet he turned it around. He became the head of the Kane County Civil Defense Department. He was cited by 5 presidents for what he did. He created disaster plans because of what he was seeing through Boy Scouts and the war. He created all these disaster plans. And when 9/11 happened, the city officials from other cities contacted me and said, can I have a copy of his plans?
Yeah.
So he left a legacy, but the legacy was not a happy one because he suffered. He suffered a great deal. When you're in an airplane crash and your skin's burnt off and you come home 2 years later to find your wife is about to marry somebody else.
Yeah. You know, I was at an event where we were presenting the service dog to a veteran, and they had a speaker there, and she said why her son joined the military. She says it wasn't when he seen the planes hit the towers. It wasn't when the planes hit the Pentagon. It's when those people on that flight knew that they were going to be doomed and they were going to do whatever they could to stop that plane from crashing into either the White House, another tower or whatever. And they decided, and that one guy, and I can't think of his name right now, his famous last words to his wife were, let's roll.
Let's roll.
And they took control of that plane and brought it down before it could hit another building or whatever. And she said that my son at that point knew what he was destined to be. And he lost his life in the military. He lost his life in combat. But she said that's when my son knew what he wanted to do. And he overcame, he was a ranger. He overcame every obstacle physically that he had to get, because he just knew that that was his destiny to be. So,
Wow.
you know, we just can't do enough for our veterans. We just can't, you know. So, and God bless you for what you're doing for our veterans that are just wasting away in those nursing homes and the VA hospital. It's, you know, when
Or
I
even
go-
in their own homes. We
Yeah.
have what we do is door drops. And it's amazing because Robert gave a stocking. He knocked on a door. He didn't know the guy was going to answer. He hadn't seen him in so long. Over on the other side of town, you gave him the stocking, and we put a picture of it on Facebook, and everybody at the Veteran Center was like, wow, we didn't know he was still alive. It's good to see him.
See
You
what
know,
I mean?
I mean, those kind of little things are so important. And I think, what you're doing is so phenomenal. And if I'm not mistaken, you actually interview the person that's going to get the dog and you help train the dog. And it doesn't cost them everything, does it?
No, no, not at all. We get all our dogs from shelters. We provide all the training. We provide free food and free medical for the life of that dog. These veterans on a fixed income to begin with. And how do you give somebody a dog? And if you've had a dog right now, it could be a potential medical bill that could be outrageous. Dog food is not cheap anymore. It's $50-$60 a bag. Then you got dog treats, you got supply. We didn't want that to be any part of the equation for them to receive that dog. We wanted this dog to be a true asset to their life. And that's our whole premise of providing these service dogs to our veterans. We want to make their life better.
It's so wonderful what you do. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been there when these dogs have been released with their owners. One of them was it you that found the dog walking down the middle of the street?
I was out on my motorcycle with my brother-in-law, Michael, and we were just maybe about 4 miles from here. And it was, all of a sudden we came up to a stop sign and I'm looking, and to the left of me on the highway, we were on a side street, but on the highway, a little bit to the left of me, there was something in the road. I'm trying to figure, what the hell is this? So I looked and all of a sudden it started to move a little bit, and it was laying down all hunkered in under the ground. So we both parked our bikes. We walked over there, and it was this dog. And I thought, oh my God. And cars are zooming by back and forth. This poor dog was shaking, trembling. So I tried to get the dog to walk off the highway with me. It wouldn't go anywhere. It was frozen to that ground. It wasn't about to go anywhere. So I picked the dog up and got it off the highway. I walked it about a mile to this guy's house, and he actually had a kennel that he let us use to put the dog in. And meanwhile, my bike's out on the highway going, oh shit. Sorry. So, so we got the dog. So we called Kate, our trainer, and Reggie Latuca, our vice president. They arranged for Kate to come and pick that dog up, take it to the vet to have it completely checked out, x-rays and shot at whatever it needed. And we gave it to a veteran who happens to be a truck driver. So before I even knew who we were going to give the dog to, I decided to call the dog Highway because we found him on the highway. Well, lo and behold, the next veteran that was up for a service dog was a truck driver. So, I mean, God's will is some things are just meant to be. So this dog is amazing right now. It is so, oh my God, it's just not the same dog, of course, but he takes that dog with him in the truck on all his stops. Every day that dog is with him. So, I mean,
yeah, we were there when the dog was released, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest story ever. And you just don't know where you're going to find this life companion.
And this dog has literally saved this man's life. It really has. He calls me, I can't tell you how many times, and he'll say, Mike, I just want to thank K9. They saved my life. This dog is everything to me. It is my best friend. When I'm depressed, I could just look at this dog, and he has a way of just bringing me right out of it. So if we could save one veteran from committing suicide because of a little four-legged furry friend, then we did what we're supposed to do. Just like you doing what you do, going to these hospitals, just to let them know that somebody appreciates them and acknowledges them and is there to give them a little stocking with a lot of nothings in it, but to brighten up their day. I mean, I was going to say, when I'll take Sam into Samantha, my service dog, Samantha, AKA Sam. She's going through the gender crisis. She said, Dad, I'll be Sam. I said, oh, okay. So anyway, when you go into these nursing homes, you see all people lined up along the wall in the wheelchair. It is the most depressing thing I've ever seen. I mean, it's so sad and pathetic. when you walk in with Samantha, oh my God, they perk up, their eyes get big. They all want to reach out and pet the dog and, and they'll tell you, oh, I had a dog. My dog's name was so-and-so. And, I mean, it's just so heartwarming to see them actually have some life back in that shell of a person that was there 10 minutes ago, just nothing, no life.
This year, when we go and deliver stockings, because we couldn't last year because of the COVID thing, but hopefully we will this year. We want you to come with us and
Oh,
bring
I want to.
Samantha.
I
We
am,
want you to bring Samantha. We think it would be fantastic
I am so looking forward to that.
because they wouldn't let us in last year.
Yeah.
But last year. It just seems like the other day.
Yeah.
Because since Christmas, we've already done Valentine's for veterans. We've done Easter eggs for veterans. And now we're going to be sneaking out and putting flags in front of veterans' homes.
Oh, how nice.
We do it at night when nobody's looking. So when they get up the next day, they see
The flag. How
Mhm.
sweet. Listen, I want to thank you for inviting me on tonight. It's been
Well, thank you for
Thank you
coming
for
on,
coming on.
and we appreciate you. And ladies and gentlemen, go to K9s for Vets. Give your website.
The easiest way to go to, it's the letter K, the number 9, the letter S in Sierra, D is in Delta, K9SD.org. Learn all about who we are, what we do it, and just come out, when I go to these schools and I talk to these young kids, the last thing I say to them, if you see a veteran, he's got a veteran's cap on or a shirt, whatever, and, go up to them, shake their hand and thank them for our service. It doesn't cost anything.
No.
Let that veteran know that you appreciate his service to our country. And I tell that to all the young kids. Just go up to them and shake their hand. Let them know you appreciate what they did for your. I was with a veteran one time, and we were in a store, and I'm sure your husband had the same thing. Come up to us and say, "Oh, thank you for your service." And it's like you're sort of taken back by it and stuff like that. The guy that I was with had the best comeback I've ever heard. This woman come up to him, looked him, and she looked right at him and says, "Well, I want to thank you for your service." And I'm going, So he looked at her, got right up in her face and said, "You were worth it."
Ah,
And I thought, oh my God,
that's awesome.
I've never heard that comeback or that reply to thank you for your service. I mean, she just smiled, beamed ear to ear with a smile.
That you're going to remember that, aren't you?
Well, yeah, plus when we travel around, when we stop for a rest, because we drive pretty much everywhere, I seem to just know who the veterans are.
Yes, he's
Oh,
got
yeah.
I
radar.
go on and start talking to them.
You could tell.
Before you know it, they're telling us what happened, where they were. And no one's
Sure.
ever said anything, and it's by a simple little token because we give away stars.
We give the
too.
star card.
Yeah.
Right.
We
I
have
got
piles of them in his truck, piles of them in my
Yeah.
car,
So,
and we give them away.
and sometimes it's the hat, and sometimes it says, "Well, no, that wasn't me. That was my son." And then I start getting to the conversation about what did your son
Right.
do, or what did your daughter do, or whatever, to find out, because they just want to.
They share.
No one's probably ever asked them.
Exactly. So you know what? Just continue to do what you're doing.
You too.
Doing amazing things. I want to come out with you and share
Yes.
that. I can't wait to go to these hospitals and nursing homes with you.
We'll be going, hopefully this year we'll get into Mantino this year.
Well,
Let me
actually,
know.
we're going to go down
There's a new one, right?
LaSalle's, where we've been going down to, because no
Right.
one's been going down there.
Yeah, because of the big to-do down there.
Right.
And
The last
boy,
couple of
they were
years I've been
happy
down
we
there. I
came.
could've went
Can't
to all
scare
the
me.
rooms myself. Me either. I could have went to all the rooms, but I was the only one that went down there. If I would have had
Yeah.
another person with me, oh,
Well,
You
got
let
mine.
me know. You
You
let
got
me know when
mine.
you want to go.
it's worth the trip, in my opinion. Anyway, it doesn't
I
matter.
want to go with you. Just let me know who, what, where, and when, and I'm all on board.
Well, I want to thank you for not only what you do for K9s for Vets, but this awesome memorial in Shanahan.
Yeah.
I think that this is absolutely phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, get on board with him. Mike, when is your next memorial?
It's next Saturday, the 21st,
The
1:00.
1:00. 1:00.
One
And
o'clock.
is that open to the public or is that a private?
Yes, no, it's open to the public. We want as many people to come out there and celebrate with these families that someone's recognizing their son and daughter for their service to our country. The more people we get out there, the more we want people to realize that these veterans need to be honored and not
Yep.
shunned or forgotten or criticized or looked down upon. No, these are true heroes in every sense of the word.
Well, I just can't thank you enough. Ladies and
God
gentlemen,
bless you.
thank you for being,
What time Saturday, Mike?
1:00.
1 o'clock. Okay.
and I want to thank everybody for letting Be a Hero to a Hero have its first broadcast with one of our greatest heroes.
And
in Illinois.
I was so proud to be a part of it. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you
God
all
bless you. Thank you.
and be a blessing. Bye-bye.
Bye.